And I was gonna talk about like going back to like the beginning of like what I think I experienced with stuff coming out from China, and I think a lot of people did back when I was building Gunpla was Dayban was out there, and they were the
Mhm.
knockoff brand. They made the box art look like Bandai. They completely ripped it off. They made their
Mhm.
logo look like Bandai's logo, except with their name on it. But then they started changing a little bit. They started doing things like putting out master grade versions of like like stuff that they've already done out, but with more detail on it. Like all of a sudden you had the same one, but it's a detail up version. And then all of a sudden they started putting out gunpla kits of stuff that Bandai hadn't put out, stuff that people had wanted to see. And all of a sudden you had like these different, um, Astray Red Frames, versions that Bandai still hasn't put together. Like the Mars Jacket, Astray Red Frame, they still haven't put together one. Dayban's had one out for a while. They put out 160 scale kits that were a fraction of the cost of a perfect grade, that Bandai hadn't put out or was putting out. And then recently they put out a model kit version of the 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 new Gundam that Bandai put out that was like the really expensive one that was basically a figure and that everybody's been screaming for a new Gundam perfect grade, and then Bandai's like, look, we'll put out an extremely premium figure version of it that should satisfy you, right? And like people are like, well, that's not very approachable. That's not
Mhm.
feasible for me to pay like $1,000 for something that, I'd rather pay just a couple hundred to get. And then
Mhm.
Dayban, even though Dayban's, one that's come out is like $300 compared to what Bandai's charging for theirs, it's still like if you want that, it's still way more approachable than like what Bandai did. And then, it was like I felt like that was, you know, Dayban walked so others could run because you started seeing other companies kind of doing the same. And then I felt like, especially when the Zero Gravity Judge came out, I felt like was like this really, and um it was it was this marker that showed the change of an era. And the Zero Night Sky uh, was like you started seeing that come out, and then more and more came out of just original designs that started catching people's eyes. And it wasn't, we started going away from like say like Pretty Armor was another one for like Girl Paw that was like just knockoffs of Kotobukiya stuff, like really bad quality. And now you're seeing stuff like Nuke Matrix, MS General, Eastern Models. They're putting out all of this great original stuff that we've wanted, not just like knockoff of like Gundam. Because honestly, nothing against Gunpla, nothing against Gundam, but Bandai has just been lazy
Mhm.
when it comes to that. They're just reissuing old kits, putting out kits, for stuff that, from stuff that's like from like 30 years old, anime, that's like
Mhm.
20, 30 years old. They're just now putting out, like a high grade version of something. They're really putting behind them their master grade, line. It's still there, but they're not putting out in the frequency. And then even when they do put out a master grade thing, it's not as detailed as people would expect it to be. You know,
Mhm.
you see some really good stuff that people do, but they got to put that work into it, to put that detail into it. Meanwhile, you got stuff that's coming out from China that's just chock full of detail. If it's not color separated already, it's got the detail in there for you to like, be able to paint and be able to make stand out. And I feel like, you started with this thing where it was just knockoff stuff, and now it's just blossomed into this beautiful, beautiful thing that I look forward to seeing all the new things
Mhm.
coming out. Rant over.
No, yeah, I was, just now when you talk about knockoff and Bandai and Daban, I was like, I have to get this like Joy Toy, right? So like for
Mhm.
any of you, like the God of War, this was one of the earlier mechas, right, from Joy Toy, but I mean, this is very obvious, right? This one right here is from Titanfall, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I don't play
Hmm.
Titanfall, right? So it's like when Joy Toy first started, even the pilots and the mechs, they are all like copied from, you know, Titanfall. But that was what, just a few years ago. And right now, like they don't even copy or anything. But like I'm super impressed by how they managed to secure, again, go back to Warhammer, right?
Hmm.
They managed to
Hmm.
secure the partnership and just make toys. Like all the characters, they're
Hmm.
just making lots and lots of money and using that to build something else as well, you know. So for me, it's like, man, they are always um innovating and creating. And even Joy Toy right now is coming out with the 112 action figures, right? So that's really cool. Yeah, so what's the verdict? You guys think that the Chinese studios, they have taken over the
Well,
hobby?
so
What do you guys
I
think?
so I think Joy Toy is actually a very good example, right? Because as you were just saying, they started off with essentially making um figures and stuff based on a video game where they quite clearly took some of the designs, but it was people who wanted, uh who wanted figures from the Titanfall line because who wouldn't? And
Hmm.
and they secured a license with Warhammer. Like Games Workshop said, these guys are making toys so well. Let's let's give them the license to make this thing. And realistically, like Warhammer, if you just look at Space Marines, right? They are all, doesn't matter the chapter, they all have a very similar armor setup. There's some differences and stuff, but it would be super easy to literally just put out repaints. But every time they're like, oh, here's, this other chapter. Oh, it's the Space Wolves. And they are so different from an ultramarine, and they didn't skimp at all, right? And
Hmm.
now they've got the license for Corvus Bell, I believe it's called, which is another
Hmm.
miniature tabletop game that they were like, yeah, these designs are awesome, let's make them articulated figures. Like if you want to say, like, oh, is are Chinese companies stepping up to the same kind of levels? Like, I honestly think Joy Toy is kind of has set a very high example of being a small company a few years ago that made essentially knockoffs to having a gigantic license that they are
Mm,
just absolutely killing.
Hmm.
So that's my thought on it.
Hmm.
Like I think these companies have proven that they know what they're doing, and they can put out quality products for a price point that's, in my opinion, way more favorable, right? Like the nuke or the motor nuclear kits, right? Like the bang for your buck you get with them. They all have stands. Yeah, it's insane. So yes, I think they've kind of put some of the other big companies to shame, personally.
I don't think that Japan is out of the game. You're still getting really good stuff from Kotobukiya. Bandai is still putting out some decent stuff, although I feel like they're falling. I feel like they're just, they're relying on their licenses to
Hmm.
sell, and they're not quite going with the quality. They're not being like, oh, people are buying this because it's a good kit. It's like people are buying this because it's licensed and they want a kit of that, whether
Hmm.
it's good or not. And then you got places like Good Smile Company. Good Smile Company is putting out some really good stuff. They're getting some really good licenses from a lot of obscure lines, or obscure IPs, older super robot stuff, even science fiction stuff like Aliens. You got like the the exosuit loader from the Aliens movie with Ripley in it, and that's really cool. And I'm a huge fan of like, Good Smile's Kaidasarium line. There was some beautiful girls that coming out of that. The Guilty Princess line. But, I feel like they are really climbing. They are really climbing. Kotobukiya is really climbing, with like the quality of stuff. Like just look at the last episode we did about Vthor and we couldn't shut up about it for, the entire time. Just that one kit. But China, I feel like is right behind, if not getting like neck and neck with a lot of these
very
Japanese,
close.
studios.
Yeah, because I feel like, for me, when I was growing up, it's either the American brands or the Japanese brands, right? And then
Hmm.
like we have talked about just now, like the Chinese brands, they are always known as the knockoff, right?
Yeah.
But right now I can see that there are a lot of Chinese companies, that even the smaller ones, right? They are trying out different scales, right? Even for, let's say, the armor puppets, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, out of nowhere, there's this like
Mhm.
1/24th scale. And then there's the Empire Sky Studio, which is another relatively new 1/24th scale Quasimodo kit studio. So you
I'll have
can
to
see
check
all
those
of
out.
these, yeah. So you can see all of these, smaller studios or companies, they are popping up right now. But you know that, as long as they keep improving, then one day they're gonna be like Joy Toy, because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's very affordable, at least for me, because like Malaysia, Singapore, like Taiwan,
Yeah,
like all of
since
these
we're both
places,
in
they are
Asia.
so, yeah, they are so close to China. That's why, like, whenever I found out certain figures or Quasimodo kits, when they cost almost twice the price, like in the States, I'm like, man, like that's crazy, because over
It's
here
scary.
it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, it's cheaper than some Bandai or Kotobukiya's stuff. So for me, I would say that at least in this part of the world, I think it's more attractive to buy the Chinese kits and action figures with the way that they are going. So I think, in my opinion, they have kind of taken over, the hobby community. Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, I do feel like China is like, has caught a lot, but I don't feel like they're gonna take over Japan. I would say that like they are going to stand next to Japan, like, shoulder to shoulder, because China has like, a lot of innovation, a lot of like, neat things to offer. Um, New cool designs, concepts, like, things that are like a labor of love, like, you could like feel like, they've put in the thought into it. But like Japan, they have like, the experience, like,
Mhm.
especially like big studios like Good Smile, like, they have like your Nendoroids, their Figmas, their Mordoroids, they have like that legacy. So like, Japan stays there like the legacy and the quality,
Mm,
while like China, you have like, all the new innovations, the ideas, like, crazy stuff they just want to try. Like, um I remember mall kids back then, like, they're really bulky, and like, they don't really have like too many spikes or like, crazy wings or effects, but like the Chinese kids, they're like, whatever, we'll just add in a bunch of spikes to figure it out. And like, you get like these really cool kits that like look really edgy and have like shelf presence. So I feel like, maybe like in the next few years, like, you will see like China and Japanese stuff, like, just side by
mm,
side, and like you pick your poison, like, you want something that has
mm,
like, more legacy to it, like, Bandai's Gundams, or you want something new, like more nuclear, or the number 57 armored puppets. So
mm,
that's what I feel like, they're just gonna stand side by side. But I feel like, they're gonna take some stuff from, Camp A. China is gonna take stuff from Japan. Like, they're just bounce ideas off each other. And I think that's really healthy. And like, it promotes that, like, oh, like, China's catching up. We gotta do something to be better. And then China's like, oh, okay, they're doing something that's interesting. We'll do something interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
So I feel like
No,
it's
yeah.
creating a healthy environment for both, like, creators and the consumers alike.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like they're really bumping up that boost in just the innovation and the concepts, the imagination is just blowing up, I feel. You're
Yeah.
right. It's like, like a lot of these, stuff from China, you're right. It's like a lot of stuff is like, really pointy and spiky. It's like safety be damned, you know, your fingers are going to suffer and you're going to stab yourself with something at some point, but it's going to look really cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then like Bandai, they have those like little cute safety nuts on the fins, and China's like, okay, have a bunch of spikes,
Yep,
have
Yeah.
fun.
yep. Just
Yeah.
hope it doesn't fall on a small child or something, just
All right. Yeah. Before we wrap it up, we're just gonna give a recommendation on any Chinese kits or action figures. Any recommendation, like Chinese studios for Plastic Model kits or action figures?
How about we go with
Anyone?
Rhea first
Mhm.
as our guest?
So for me, I mostly dabble in mecha musume, so like girl plug, girl kits. Me and Mike have been talking a lot about MS General. They are a amazing brand. I was actually doing research on the company, and they're actually a really, really huge company in China. And the reason why they're able to create such like high quality kits, like the plastic's amazing, the molds are amazing, like the detail is crisp and clean, is because they actually own their own factory, which is really unheard of because like a lot of Japanese producers, they actually outsource their production to China. So
Mhm.
Kotobukiya, smaller brands like I'm thinking like Aoshima is another brand. I believe they outsource to China too. But like,
Mhm.
MS General, they have their own factory and that's just crazy. And I found out that like because they have like, like so much financial backing, they've actually created like a lot of jobs in China. I think like
Mhm.
10,000 over, which is really nice. So other than MS General, I would also recommend Nuke Matrix. Nuke Matrix, the kits are amazing. I love that like, you're incorporating like fantasy details into them, like the mermaid, and there's a centaur kit coming up.
Oh yeah, that one looks good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um E-model, they also make Iron Man kits and they're actually coming out with some Marvel girls. So
Mhm.
they are coming out with Black Widow. So Natasha, like she
Oh yeah,
has
saw that.
both her
Mhm.
red hair and like her bleached blonde hair. So that's really interesting and exciting. And the crazy part is that like she's only going to be like $20, 20
Yeah.
US. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
She looks
Wow.
good. She doesn't look like, it doesn't look like an overly complex kit. It's just you get the girl, you get her weapons, and you get changeable hair, but it looks great. For that
Yeah.
price, it looks really good.
Mm.
And as for action figures, I would recommend like, if you are into 112, I would recommend what's it called, Snail Shell. Snail Shell is a really good brand. There are other figure brands popping up right now, but I feel that Snail Shell is like one of the more solid ones, and they've actually been doing really, really well to the point where they're having collaborations with Ami Ami. And if you guys don't know what Ami Ami is, or the viewers don't know, Ami Ami is like one of those highly recommended, well-known figure retailers in like the figure collecting world. So that means something.
Mm.
And also like for other interesting kits, number 57, I gotta stand my armored puppets. I love them so much. I can't wait for all the new kits that they've released, like the
Mm.
panda one. What else there was the fish mech, right? Like the one that's like piloted by a fish.
Oh yeah, with the little fishbowl head.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cute. And
Oh, and then you
Sakura
Sakura
Edge.
Edge.
Yes,
Yes.
I can't wait for Sakura Edge. And places to buy them. I would recommend going to a shop that is based in China, especially for all
Mhm.
these China kits, because you're just going to be paying crazy amounts on like a US retailer. It really shocked me, like what Em mentioned, like, it's a shock to both of us since we're in Asia, like, these kits are cheap, but like in America, like, these kits and figures, they're like marked up by like double the price, and we're like, oh my God, that's daylight robbery. So I would
Mhm.
recommend Show Z, Show Z store
Hmm.
and Gundamit and
Mhm.
also Bombasby. I know that a lot of people in Mike's and our server that we're in, the Mecha HQ server, a lot of people have been getting their stuff from Gundamit and like, it's cheap, it's good, it's almost on par with the Chinese price.
Mhm.
Maybe $3 more and shipping is fast. So yeah.
Hmm.
It's funny. I'm going to repeat a lot of stuff that Rhea said, but I mean, it's worth repeating.
Hmm.
Nuke Matrix and I would say MS General high up there for if you want to get into girl plot, if you want to do Mecha Musume, very good. Those are very good studios to go with. Find something that catches your eye and it's going to be a fun build. It's not going to be like, well, which is the earliest, which is the simplest one? They're not complex. They just might have
Mm.
a lot of parts, but they're not complex. And they're beautiful, just out of the box. They're just absolutely beautiful. And then number 57's Armored Puppets, God, that is just so great. It is so great. I'm so glad that I like took a chance on Oni Flame when I first saw it. Still love it. Still love it to this day. absolutely love number 57 in their armor puppet lines, and their Manhunter line is just so really good too. Um, so those would be some of like my biggest, I think, recommendations in that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else or something different, but that's where I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna, double down with MS General, Nuke Matrix, and number 57. Um, I'll also throw in Rihio if you want to do
Oh
something
yes, we're here.
that's
Mm.
kind of they're a lot simpler. I kind of, compare it a little bit to say like Bionicle a little bit. They're really simple, quick builds. They're very inexpensive, smaller models, but they got some really cool, cute little like mecha and vehicle stuff that goes along with them. They're pretty easy to find. You got to find them in the United States. I have to get them through eBay, otherwise I'd have to search from elsewhere.
I
But
think AliExpress might have them too.
yeah, AliExpress does have them actually. Now that you talking about that is actually a really good point that you can get them there. But that's another line that I think is a very, you know, I think is a really good entry level if you want some cool little mechas on your desk, and they're easy to build, they're quick, but they're inexpensive and they're cute. Really highly recommend those as well. But I think those are my recommendations. How about you, Joe?
Motor Nuclear, like totally.
Hmm.
Um, they they put out the really spiky kits. Um, like really spiky. Like yeah, definitely definitely a hazard. But just gorgeous, right? And such beautifully like thought out builds too. Like they don't they don't take a ton of time. They look incredible when they're done. Like I said, you don't have to actually do any detailing if you don't want, because if they didn't, if there wasn't like actual like plastic color separation, they've pre-painted stuff so that you don't have to worry that, well, the box art shows these gold, accents, but because they were like really small parts, they're just not on there and you have to do it yourself. Like now they pre-painted the eyes for you. They, there's no decals or like dry transfers or anything like that with them. They just come looking glorious. Um, and stuff uh like Zero Gravity. So the Judge, that was incredible. I think they did rebrand into that Soul Vogue company
Hmm.
because they put out some really, really good stuff too. And we talk about that a fair bit in our Discord. Um, so they put out some good stuff. But yeah, like it's just bang for your buck. You get incredibly good kits. You get and their shelf presence is amazing, right? Like the metal build is huge and amazing, but I think I actually prefer the kits a little bit more because you do get to build them. That's one of the
Yeah.
things because I love the build process, but because they don't take up quite as much space and they're not as expensive, you can have more, which is always good. And then if you're into the metal build stuff, uh Mosho Toys has put out some incredible looking huge metal builds, which real quick, I'm just gonna very quickly show off. So Masamune Date and Takeda Shingen, right? Like they have like light
Oh,
up
I love
accessories.
him.
They have like magnetic stands. So the stand's metal and they have magnets in their feet, so they're not gonna fall over. Like you can
Wow.
shake the heck out of that, right? Like
Wow.
he wobbled,
Wow.
nothing's going on. They like light up effects in like the eyes and stomach, right? Like he's got an eye patch, but you can also pop that off if you want. Like they're incredibly well made. They're so detailed, it's insane. And again, price point wise, compared to a Bandai metal build that is the size of a master grade, like they're just bang for your buck is insane, right? Weapons, um, weapon effects. I'm real quick because I need to show this off because it's insane. So Date comes with like a sniper rifle. So check this out. So here's the magazine, okay, real quick,
Mhm.
and the bullets are like individual metal bullets.
No
So you just
way.
kind of
That is so
get them pop out,
cool.
but like die
What?
cast
Wow.
rounds, So like
That is crazy.
yeah, just bananas. And again, price point wise, they're insane. I got both of these. from Shozi. So I definitely highly recommend Shozi and Gundamit. I have had no problems at all. Why is my thing not switching? Anyway, no problems at all with it. Like as a place to buy from, their customer service is excellent. You know, I bought a figure early on that there was a defect and like a joint was fused and the arm snapped, and they got me a replacement arm, no cost. They just
Wow.
said, you know, let us know and we'll help you out. So their after sales service is great, and they carry tons of stuff.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I also heard that for Shozi and Gundam, they actually do like price matching, so they'll actually refund you money if like
Mhm.
you know they were like, oh this is actually lower than we expected, and also their pre-order system is really friendly because I've
Mhm.
had a few friends like you know they're like, oh, it's only $1 pre-order, so you can lock in your purchase, and then like you know when it's time to buy it, like when it's like in stock or about to ship it out, you can like pay it off, and that's like a really friendly way, since I believe that a lot of American retailers, they charge you upfront even
Yep.
when
Yep.
the product's not in stock.
Yeah, you have to pay. But yeah, like Shozi and Gundam, you can if you want. If you want to, you know, once the full price is revealed, if you want to pay, you can outright pay and not have to worry if you've got the funds ready to go. But if you don't, yeah, $1, and then that, you know, whatever you, and I think it's like starting at $1, and I think you could pay almost as much as you want. So you could technically pay for half of it, and when it comes in, you just pay the other half.
Mhm.
Their point system is also fantastic. I highly recommend that, because they, like, so for $10 a year, I have the premium membership, which like triples the amount of points you get, and routinely, like, it feels like every third order I make, I save like half price on some of the stuff. You know, like I've gotten kits and figures for like way less than I should have, because you know you order something kind of big from them, and then you get a ton of points, and then a kit comes out and you're like, oh, I paid for shipping. It's amazing. Like,
Mhm.
highly recommend them. And yeah.
Yeah, and also just a quick I just want to show it off since I have the box with me. Um, about Musume kits, like you know Chinese kits being bang for buck. So this is the MS General 7 Deadly Sins Gluttony. The box is crazy big. I know it's like kind of blurry, but like she is just huge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that box is ridiculous.
you could fit in that.
Yeah.
Like,
I could. So
you could pack your house in the box from Gluttony. So yeah, so there you go. If you buy the kit, you have a packing box if you ever have to move.
I actually took a comparison picture with the MG Deep Striker, and it's crazy. And like just the price point, she is
Mm.
just an amazing kid. I love her so
Mhm.
much. And me and Mike didn't mention it, but she also comes with a drone that lights
Oh
up.
yeah, yeah.
It has
Mm.
RGB.
Oh,
We
yeah.
haven't built it yet, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't build
man.
the throne because I was running out of room on my shelf for both the Anubis and Gluttony.
Yeah, my drone is still in the box. I gotta build it too.
That's cool. That's cool. For me, it would be Joy Toy. You know,
Mhm.
yeah, been supporting since the beginning. I really like them. The 1/18 scale action figures, those are really good. And you know, personally, I've seen improvement throughout the last couple of years as well. That's why, you know, I keep going back. Even though these days my money tend to end up in the Valaverse action figures. I'm like, man, should I get Valaverse or should I get, you know, Joy Toy? Damn. But yeah, it's been great, guys. This episode, I think we can go on and on,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, it's gonna be like
yeah,
a plus size double deluxe episode,
like a
which is good. There's a
three-part
lot to talk about.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. Is there anything else to add on before we say goodbye to each other and everyone?
No, I
Check
think
out
we're good.
check out M's his Patreon so you can get onto the Discord.
Like,
Yes.
yes.
Lowest level on the Patreon gets you into the Discord, and you can talk with all of us as
Yep.
we practically live on there. So
we talk to each other every day, man.
We
yeah,
do.
Mm-hmm.
We're
yeah.
like best friends. I love it.
Okay,
Cozy
thank you so
little
much,
community.
guys.
All right.
Sorry.
Thanks for having
Oh,
us,
okay.
Rhea. Thanks for joining us. It
Thank
was
you for
great
having
having
me.
you.
Thank
Yes, I
you, Rhea.
enjoyed
Thank you,
being here.
Mike. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, it's been great. I will see you guys on Discord. Thank you
Yes,
guys
sir.
for watching. All right,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.